welcome to What the Fuck Sutter. Both a sad and eventful week on and off the set here at Suns. I want to talk a little bit about the show, which is a good idea. I feel like these have become, unfortunately for you, these have become therapy for me, so I'm not going to subject you to another counseling session. You know, obviously we're, or I should say this, if you've not seen last week's episode, you should probably not watch this because there will be large spoilers contained within it, so turn it off now, as if anybody's watching. And rather than just answer questions this week, just want to answer really one question, which is obviously I did a little bit of a conference call with reporters on Wednesday, but just, you know, the decision that we made for OPIE and why we made that decision, and just, you know, and I went into it, it's in a lot of the articles, but you know, as we come into the 5th season of the show, and as we really start to, you know, as I've said, this is the first time I've really had to start to conceive and wrap my brain around, you know, how to execute the end game. You know, I know where I want to go, but I wasn't quite sure what narrative devices I was going to use to get there. So this is really the first season I had to say, okay, you know, what happens in the mythology here that can project us toward that goal. So you know, and obviously it's you know, it's an ensemble piece, but it is and has always been Jax's story. So you know, I felt like as it happens to men and women, you know, there are those series of events that happen in our lives that change the course of our destiny, that change us emotionally, that you know, change our physical circumstances, that, you know, have a really a major impact on the direction that we move forward. And I always knew that in the season where Jax was going to be at the head of that table, where he was deciding what kind of man he was going to become and what kind of leader he was going to become, that at some point in the course of that season, you know, I wanted one of those major upheavals to happen to our main character that we can obviously then bounce a ton of story off of, but also to see, you know, the shift that it would make in him, and what does Jax do now in light of Opie's death, you know. Opie was sort of Jax's conscience to a certain extent, you know, as much as Bobby is sort of the morality of the club and whispering in Jax's ear in terms of what the right thing to do is for the club. Opie was always sort of like the guy that would kind of call him on his bullshit and say, "What, you know, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Who, you know, who are you talking to here?" And you know, and really sort of grounded Jax, I think, in the reality of who they were and the reality of their circumstances. You know, so what does Jax now do without that tether, you know, and what direction are we able to take him as a result of that? So, and quite honestly, for that to be a major upheaval in the course of a hero or anti-hero's arc, you know, it had to be a major consequence, a major, in this case, a major death. And really, there was only one character that would have impacted Jax that deeply, and it was Opie. You know, Ryan and Hurst and I have had conversations, you know, about Opie. You know, people will remember there was, you know, and this is, you know, talked about this seasons ago, but, you know, the character of Opie initially was a one-season character. The character of Opie was initially going to be killed off at the end of season 1, and this sort of beautiful dynamic happened between those two characters and ultimately those two actors that we didn't want to let it go, and we got to kind of bring it to light, and you know, that's one of those symbiotic things as a, you know, working with a great cast and great directors that sometimes happens. So, you know, we were able to sort of flush out that character more and keep him around for a few more seasons. But you know, but I've had conversations with Ryan about ultimately where this was going, and as we were breaking story at the beginning of the season, and I kind of knew that this was going to go down, and that it was going to go down early. You know, I didn't want it to, you know, I didn't want it to just happen at the end of the season. You know, I really wanted that upheaval to happen early, and so we could really bounce almost a full season off of it. So you know, Ryan and I began to have conversations, and unfortunately, it's gotten to a point now. If I call the guys for a meeting in my office, they just assume they're being killed, and no matter what it's for. But you know, we began those discussions and how we were going to do it, and in what capacity, and you know, it's hard, and it was difficult, I think, for Ryan as it was for me. And but I think you know, my sense is that, you know, Ryan was very happy with the way it all went down, and you know, obviously it's hard for me to be objective, but I thought it was a really potent and heart-wrenching episode, and really, you know, I think did the character well, and as Jack says in episode 4, you know, Opie went out a warrior, and I really hope folks tune in for episode 4. It's a really, you know, it's a really beautiful send-off to that character, and in a very unique way, and I think folks will really, you know, I think they'll be glad they showed up and participated in the final send-off to Opie Winston. So that's it. I'll keep doing these, and hopefully we will have a more a better and a more peaceful week. So thanks. Bye.